Well, 3.5 years ago, I had cancer in my tonsil that then spread to my neck. So it's, you know, metastasized. It's, I did chemo, I did radiation, I did surgery, and for almost 3 years, it looked like it wasn't coming back. And then about, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, we found a lump in my, or not a lump, but a node in my chest that had a mass in it, and then some mass behind that. And it wasn't an infection, and it wasn't pneumonia. It was, again, cancer. So now the cancer's gone from the neck, the lymph nodes. And by the way, we took out 39 lymph nodes. And when I first did the surgery, there was cancer in 5 of them. So now it's in the lungs. So now you got stage 4 metastatic cancer in your lungs. not a good scenario. But the good news, Frank, I'll tell you, is I did 4 sessions of chemo, 5-hour sessions, over that 3.5-month period, and the last PET scan I had a little over a week ago, I was clean. The cancer was, you couldn't see it on the PET scan. So then I said to my doc, am I done? But they said no. If I didn't have cancer and I had that clean PET scan, I think I could walk away. But having had the node that had cancer in it and had gone back, having the other kind of block of cancer behind that, the concern is that you've got, still could be microscopic that's in there. And chemo doesn't kill it, it slows it, it erased it in my instance, but still there. So bottom line is I began this week, in fact, radiation, chemo once a week, but radiation 5 days a week for 5 weeks. And the hope is that at that point in time we'll get the microscopic and again, not cure, but hopefully, you know, put to rest the concerns about this coming back for hopefully a very, 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 very long time.
So what's your daily regimen now like then with the chemo?
So yeah. So I get up early and drive down to Mayo. You know, usually have a buddy or somebody drive with me. My wife does the full day sessions on Mondays, but it's a chance for me to get together with small friends. So drive down. It's almost like being in a tanning booth. I go in, I take my shirt off and put on the goggles, and I get in the machine. And now, by the way, if the cancer's on your lung, it's a moving target. You actually have to hold your breath and get in a set position, and that's when the radiation hits. So I kind of go through that routine because it can't be moving. The radiation's got to go right, you know, where it's targeted, where the cancer was. In the node where the cancer was behind the lung. Those are the 2 places I had it. So I'll do that. I do that every day and come back. And, you know, we're sitting in my office now for the first couple of weeks. I'm anticipating that I can be, you know, working after the treatment. At a certain point in time, I'm told that you're going to start getting tired. The radiation is kind of the gift that keeps giving. It builds up. And so, you know, maybe week 3, week 4, I may not be, you know, traveling, coming to the office as much, but I'm trying to keep as a normal routine as one can, and kind of going through the process.
Well, good for you. I mean, do you feel as good as you look?
I feel that's what's so insidious about this, Frank. I got to tell you, I went through the chemo, and it affects people differently. So I'm talking about 4 or 5 hours of chemo. I had chemo on a Thursday. I was playing golf on a Saturday and Sunday. Now I wasn't carrying my bags, yeah. But you know, I was hitting the ball. And so, other than this John Malkovich look, you know, for your viewers who know me, this is not always the Norm Coleman look. Other than that, I was feeling pretty good. A little weak, a little, you know, not as strong as I was, but still pretty good. And even today, I'm not feeling much. Again, radiation at a time when I went through my original treatment, I had 2 weeks of radiation, did surgery, cut the cancer out, did chemo, did radiation. After 2 weeks of radiation, I went to the doctor. I said, "You sure this stuff is, you're putting this in my," because I'm not feeling anything. And he told me, "You will." And about a week later, it was, that's when the oxycodone had to kick in. It was about a week later. So I suspect that, you know, this is week 1. I'm doing fine. We're sitting here. And, you know, we'll see what happens in week 4, week 5. And the bottom line is I'm going to go through this, and my hope and my prayer, truly my prayer, is that, you know, I'll have 2 months of whatever I have to go through here, and hopefully, you know, have another 10, 20 years to kick around.
Good. My hope as well.
Yeah.
I hope you feel good through it all. You've been very public. You were public about round 1. You're being very public about round 2. It must be important to you.
Well, yeah, it is, because when you're going through this, it's interesting. I always felt I was kind of a sympathetic person before. I mean, I was the author of the Childhood Cancer Act. Worked with young Wyatt Rush, who had Wilms tumor, and I had him at the White House sign the bill, and it was really important to me. But as I kind of went through this, it kind of opened up kind of another layer about how pervasive this is, about how many cancer survivors are out there, how many families are impacted. And I hope it's helpful to say, hey, you're not alone. And by the way, also to articulate a message about early detection. That if you had, I had a dry patch in my throat for months that I didn't deal with. And if I'd done it a little bit sooner, Frank, it may have gone from my tonsil, and maybe I would have gotten it there, and maybe it wouldn't be in my lung, last week. And it certainly would not have been in my neck. I had 39 lymph nodes that were taken out in surgery. So I tell folks, if you've got that dry patch and if it doesn't go away, if you've got that bump on your skin, check it out. We're doing so much today in terms of what medicine, and by the way, I'm at Mayo, and I want to just give a shout out to my medical team at Mayo. They're extraordinary. We in Minnesota are blessed with the best medical care in the world. And it's an hour and 15 minutes from my home in St. Paul. So I go there every day now. But I have this incredible medical team. So we've got great resources in the state, got great docs, got the Mayo Clinic, got other great facilities, University of Minnesota and others. And so, if I can get folks to to kind of check this out a little bit earlier, and not go from stage 1 to 2 to stage 3 or 4, if I can let folks know that what they're going through and their families are going through, a lot of folks are going through, and they're not alone, then that's a little bit of a public service. So I'm decided to be a little more vocal, and I hope it's helpful to folks out there.
I think will be, and besides being vocal, I mean, you're being really personal. I mean, I read this Facebook post, and you're putting it all out there. I'm really curious where you're getting your strength from to be so positive.
Well, part of it is faith. I mean, Frank, I truly, telling you that I went through chemo and hardly had side effects. I really believe that's the power of prayer. People tell me that they're praying for me. I had the Israeli Prime Minister, praying for me. My wife's Catholic, and I got the Archbishop praying for me. I think my faith kind of is and the prayers that so many people, I mean, just like countless letters and calls saying, well, you're in our prayers. I think it makes a difference. And so I have kind of laid it out there, but in part, I think my story is not just my story. Frank, I'm sure it's somebody in your family's story. It's a lot of people's story. The anxiety, the uncertainty, the insidiousness of this beast it's inside you. You don't know whether it's ever going to fully go away. And with all the great advancements that we've made so many, there's still much that we don't know and don't understand. So I hope that I'm out there kind of laying this out, but it's a lot of people's story. And I hope they take comfort in knowing that they're not alone, that so many others are sharing their story.
Well, we appreciate you sharing it for sure. The thing I think that separates you from some others is you talk about your faith, you use the word joy. It seems like Norm Coleman is really enjoying life right now, and right. I don't know if that's because you've gone through this a second time. Because
I wasn't running, I wasn't up for an election on last Tuesday. That's probably a little bit of joy in that. And that not being on the ballot, Frank, is not a bad thing. Listen, I consider myself to be a very blessed person. I really do. I mean, I've got a great family. A son just got married recently. My daughter-in-law, by the way, won an election as city councilwoman in Chanhassen. Wife 38 years, almost 38 years coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm a lucky guy, and a lucky guy who, unfortunately, is kind of dealing with this challenge. But I'm, hopeful and confident, and that I'll get through it. So yeah, in the midst of, I'd rather not be undergoing radiation treatment at Mayo 5 days a week right now. But it's not the end of the world. And that's a little bit of the message here. So stage 4 metastatic cancer in your lung. 10 years ago, I'm sure it was a death sentence. It's not a death sentence. You know, there's still a lot of options. There's a lot that can be done.